Speaking of back in time, remember how bad photos used to be, the resolution of them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently there's a new tool that will let you enhance, like you see in all the crime
Enhance.
movies. Enhance. That was my whole, like applied to be an FBI guy, and I just like said that repeatedly in the interview. They're like, hey, so tell me about your. I'm like, enhance, enhance. They're like, wow, this guy's good. Okay, so
Please see your way out, sir.
I'm just enhance. I'm just as they're shuffling me out the door. Okay, so machine learning, our friends, the AIs and the machines and the learns, are doing that now with very bad results, it turns out. So this is a whole. So computer vision, I believe, is the genre of AI that this falls into, which is what we use for like self-driving cars and all kinds of other things. And this is one where they are literally trying to create pixels where there weren't pixels. So think of inference, right? Like if you have in statistics, if you look at like how things generally behave and you have really solid evidence of how things react, and then you go and you have like a new observation or a new data point, but it's missing one of those little bits, but it matches all the other ones perfectly, you often can basically assume that that bit is going to match up with the rest of your results. Well, that's kind of the idea here, and you can see the results are I mean, there's a photo, a very grainy photo of Obama that we're looking at on the screen here on the left, pixelated, and on the right you have this machine learning process that applied to it, and it turned it into Jeff, just like a random white guy with a shaved head. And this article here, they're talking about the bias in machine learning. I don't really know. Like, I think that's kind of a weird concept. Because what's happening is this is like I guess the bias would be based on your training data, not like a person coded it. That's always the weird thing when people say the bias in AI is like the concept of AI is that you're not actually coding it. You're not actually telling it, if this, then that. You're telling it, here's a bunch of data that, here's a bunch of pictures of cats. And then it's like, cool, here's a new picture. Is that a cat or not a cat? Like, that's how it works, and it figures it out. So based on the data you give it, I would imagine that's where bias would come in. But there's some kind of hilarious examples here. Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, so the weirdest part to me about all this is looking at these pictures. You guys should probably check this out. It's an article on The Verge that Ben's sharing. I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, Duke Nukem. But it's so weird that we can see it so clearly. When we see a blocked out version, like of Obama there, our brains immediately know who that is based on horrible data.
Right.
But our brains recognize that. And that's so weird.
And we recognize that these are so wrong.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, and
that's some of those are more obvious than others, but that one's close.
They're all creepy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. If you took a blurry photo, and you had no context of who the person originally was, what would that look like? Would that would your brain do a far better job than not?
Computer. Than that weird smushy Mike Tyson.
Actually, that might be kind of neat to take the original pixelated photo and then the reconstructed one, pixelate that one, reconstruct it again, pixelate that one, reconstruct it again, like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and see what you wind up with.
Oh, I bet it'd get crazy, honestly. Really quickly. That's fun though.
Well, and it just really opens up the kind of ridiculous, like the trust we have in a lot of these software packages and things. Like, we just assume it's all fine. And the thing I always see is, I mean, this goes back to like autopilot and stuff, how people just assume it's perfect always, and it's always going to be perfect. But we've even talked about it here, that sometimes you get a software update and it makes it worse in some ways, right? And that's the kind of the really dangerous part about machine learning, is that it's unpredictable. It's like its greatest strength and its biggest weakness at the same time, right? It's like because no person could ever program a computer smart enough to just know all the rules to identify even just identifying in a photo, is this male or female, right? Like that, or just things that we have evolved to identify naturally. is just very hard for you to write code to say that to a computer.
Yeah.
So machine learning is kind of the only way, or kind of, by far the best way to do that. But look at how bad it currently is. And everyone's like, the AI is going to come and take our jobs, and we're all, you know what I mean? We don't, it's like the hype and the everything is so insanely hot. But when you look at it, it's so not even close to matching that. At least in my
It's like, how do you code for intuition?
Yeah, you don't. You just use machine
Like
learning.
I think we talked about this before, but like I was driving the other day and I saw some car coming and I just sensed that this person wasn't looking my direction. And sure enough, they made this turn that I was thinking about the autopilot and the self-driving. I was like, how would a computer know that? How did I know that? I don't even know. I don't even know. But just something about the way that guy was driving, I just picked up that they're probably not looking or whatever. And I wonder how many times a day that has prevented an accident when you're just driving around and it's totally subconscious and you're not even thinking about it. How do you code that?
Right.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
I think it is a thing where, the subconsciousness of it is probably that our periphery sees stuff like that. We're not necessarily inherently, recognizing, that person's not looking, but, somewhere back there it is. So I think a computer will eventually be able to project where someone's looking, make sure, get confirmation that the eyes, the head's glancing this way, got a general sense that the car is coming. If the head's looking the other way, the car will be like, I better slow down. Like the same type of thing we're kind of doing subconsciously. I think that can all be programmed, but yeah, it's just going to be
it would be pretty cool if it could.
Long time.
So like, this was the whole thing. We've talked about it before. If you could just snap your finger and make every car this intelligent, it would be super easy for cars to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
But until we get there, and it's going to be a long way, right? People are not going to give up their hoopties. Like it's just going to be around forever. Right?
And it's not reasonable to assume every human can afford a car with self-driving.
Yeah. So it's going to be a long road ahead before we're there. But I wonder if instead of even getting a camera on the driver of the other car, if there is some way to use some kind of sensor to detect what's happening with like the steering column or something like that. Like, the way that the engine is operating, I can tell that it is about to, like, I can tell that inside of the car, the person's kind of, because you can tell when someone is trying to get over. A lot of times they're kind of leaning into the lane, not quite getting over. I wonder if we could have some really high resolution sensors that could just detect mechanically what the other cars are doing without that car having to tell us, and then we can use that information to try to like parse it out. I don't know if those kind of sensors
measure
exist,
the wheel angle. I mean, you could look at a rim and probably pretty accurately predict, if it's turning all of a sudden to like that it's going to be going that way, and
right.
We use those visual cues too. I think, just like Joe's saying, like I think there's visual cues like that we would recognize if someone is in front of us and all of a sudden we see a little bit of their tire peek out from the side because it's about to try to go around that other car. Like we recognize that subconsciously and go, they're about to zip around this, slow moving traffic or whatever. Yeah. But
and you can kind of intuit by how fast somebody is going. If say they're approaching an intersection or something, if they're going faster than maybe you would be going if you were going to be turning as versus going straight or what, it's like
a lot of little nuance bits, right? And if they have a BMW, they're totally just going to drive like a bunghole,
But we do that. I mean, that's funny, but we do that. If we see a car of a certain type of car, we're going to assume there's a certain type of person behind it that maybe is going to drive more conservatively or more aggressively.
Yeah, Prius pulling up to a stoplight versus a Mustang GT, like you're probably going to perceive slightly different. Yeah. Right. Or even the sound, like as a car pulls up to a stop sign or a stoplight, you could probably make some kind of accurate, based on how loud the vehicle is, you might get a sense of how aggressively they're going to pull out of the stop sign, I don't know.
Yep.
If they're rolling coal, they're a certain type of person.
A patriot. Avi. One last bit on the faces thing. Have you guys seen this website? Thispersondoesnotexist.com.
I've heard about it. Yeah.
No.
You just refresh the page and it gives you a completely AI generated face.
Oh, funny.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and apparently Facebook is able to identify these somehow. Wow, that one looks creepy.
What do you mean able to identify these?
What is going on in this photo? What is even up here?
That's what's nuts. I think everything in the photo is AI. So like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is an obvious one. Like if you said AI generated this, it'd be like, oh, it's pretty good. But obviously, he's just on like a gray background, like whatever.
Right.
But it's when there's like more interesting things happening where you're like, what is going on? See, like this. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So Facebook somehow can identify these, and they're because people use these for their profiles to create fake accounts. And so they're, I don't know how they're able to, but yeah, they're pulling this off and making them like taking down those accounts or whatever.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
What if you were going through that and found your face, your exact face?
Well, this is like all the sci-fi movies where like the like AI robot doesn't know that they're not real, kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And you run across that, it's like, I'm not real.
This person doesn't exist. That person's me. I don't exist. And then you just,
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks, everybody.